Well, it's 6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I realize there might be people that are still coming in, but I do want to make sure to respect everyone's time. So as we get started, I just want to do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. And then can everybody see the PowerPoint okay? Great. So as you guys know, just to make sure you guys are all doing it right now, to mute your microphones, and then you can unmute it at any time to participate in the discussion. One of the things I will like you guys to do is, I know a lot of you guys are using the chat box. I would like you guys to, whenever I ask a question, to unmute your microphone, just so we could have a lively session and then more back and forth exchanges, instead of me just talking the whole time. I would like you guys to interact that way too as well. So having said that, this is what tonight's agenda will look like. In this live session, we will have introductions. We'll have live classroom expectations, important reminders, check in on week 1 takeaways, the field experience reports, the planning cycle observation, recording methods, writing learning objectives, comprehensive lesson planning, and then you will have time for questions and answers. For some reason, if I cannot answer a question, I will get back to you right away. Usually, if you want to try to get a hold of me, if you have an immediate question that you want me to answer, usually through text message usually works a little bit better than email, but usually I am on my computer too, so either or I will get back to you as soon as possible. But as far as this live session goes, if I don't know an answer to one of your questions, I will get back to you as soon as possible with that. And usually if I address it to one, I'll probably address it to the full class, because if somebody has a question, then everybody kind of has a question. So just want to ensure that. So I'm going to keep going. So basically, I want to introduce, as most of you guys know, my name is Mike Hager. My actual name is Michael, but I do go by Mike. That is basically, I like it. Michael kind of makes me think of my mom when I'm in trouble. I do not like that. But yes, please call me Mike. So yes, I reside in Denver, Colorado. I have my master's degree in early childhood education. At this time, I do work as an administrator for a Head Start program in Denver, Colorado. If time and money were no object, I would travel to Brazil with a bunch of security guards, because I heard Brazil's kind of dangerous. Anyways, my mom is from Brazil, and she talked about what a beautiful country it is. I would like visiting the beaches, because I heard the beaches are really nice and I love the beach. So, kind of funny, but now I just want to open it up to others to share who you are, where you're from, the type of program that you are in, and what your favorite place is to travel if money and time were no object. And please, guys, make sure to unmute your microphone. I'd like you guys to actually talk so we can have an interactive conversation. So go ahead. I don't care who goes first. Just please answer the questions. And if you are viewing this recording online, please also answer these questions in paragraph format. to receive credit?
I'll start. My name is Evelyn Willa, and you can call me Jackie for short. I live in a suburb of Chicago, Illinois. I am an assistant teacher at a kindergarten in the 2-year-old classroom. And if I have time, money, and a place to travel, it would be anywhere tropical.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jacqueline, and welcome to Module 2's live session.
Thank you.
I will go next. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am Jennifer. I like to be called Jen. I always said Jennifer Jane when I was in trouble. I'm in Minnesota, and I own my own daycare, and I have since 2012. And I have ages ranging from, I have a 3-month-old right now, all the way up until 9. So I do it by myself, and I have 12 kids total.
Nice. Well,
yeah. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Jen. Oh, keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, just traveling. I mean, my kids keep me busy, so I used to live in Florida, so I guess I would go somewhere tropical as well.
Hi, can I go now?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Renita Tyus. I'm from Rockford, Illinois. I'm going to school for my CDA so I can start my own child care. And if I had the time and money, I would like to go to either France or California.
Thank you, and welcome, Renita. So it looks like some of your fellow classmates, microphones are not working. If your microphone is working, yes, it is expected that you guys talk so we could have more of an interactive dialogue. I'm not sure if people could actually see this, the chat box online, but I am going to respond to whoever does chat to. So we have Liz, who lives in Aurora, is going to school for her associate's degree. Works at Cadence Academy Preschool, and her position there is third in charge. And if she had the time, she would, in money, she would go to Italy. Thank you for sharing, Liz. Natasha, she lives in Minnesota. So yeah, that's all I have right now. So anybody else want to share as I continue this live session? Oh, Natasha also said that she worked for Invest Early for 11 years too as well. So, oh, Ariel too. Ariel, she lives in Minnesota and going to school to be a director. Welcome. I think that is everyone. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us in the live session. Just nice to get to know where everybody, what everybody is going to school for, and where everybody lives. Gives more insight about who you guys are and what you guys are doing, and how we could better get to know you, especially in this online community. So I wanted to go a little bit over the live classroom session expectations. This course will have 2 live classroom sessions that I will lead to expand on the current module topics. These sessions are offered in Module 2 and Module 5. The next live session will be Tuesday, February 4th at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Basically, the purpose of the live sessions is to engage with your peers, like I just mentioned, and myself in conversation about the course concepts to further your guys' learning. Like I said, interactive classroom sessions encourage open dialogue and questions are encouraged. And once again, if you cannot attend the live session, the video will be posted the next day. You are to complete the live session quiz to answer any of the questions that I asked the class during the presentation in order to receive full credit. Participants that do that are here right now and participate in the live session, you guys will get full credit. You guys have to make sure that you guys are on the whole time, and I can see everybody and who participates and everything. So, yeah. Does anyone have any questions regarding live classroom session expectations?
No.
Perfect. Here you can see that there's no questions. I'm going to keep moving on for tonight's session. So, important reminders. So, just want to make sure that you guys really pay attention to the course calendar for due dates. This class does go by really quickly, and I don't want to deduct points for late assignments. But as some of you guys probably already know, having taken courses maybe with Rasmussen before, that there is a 10% deduction for each day that an assignment is late. This also applies to discussions as well. Assignments are due at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time every Sunday. This initial discussion posts, so the discussions that you do, your weekly discussion posts, they're due at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time every Tuesday. Discussion responses, so any responses to peers or myself are due to 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday. And then for full credit in the discussions, please respond to at least one peer, as well as any questions I may ask. You are encouraged to respond to more than one peer if you would like, and the questions others peers ask you as well to expand your learning. Please just remember to refer to the calendar. Module 6 assignment and discussions, as they are different. Everything is due by the last day of class, which is Tuesday, February 11th. And then per college policy, I can't accept any late work after this due date for any reason. If you guys are struggling, if there's barriers, please ask questions. I don't want you guys to fall behind. Biggest part of this is making sure that you get your guys' hours and doing your assignments. Does anyone have any questions? A lot of information, probably stuff that you've already read, but I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Yes, a question came up if the observations have to be 30 hours. That is correct. You need 30 hours to work at a child care center. You probably could get that in probably a week if you wanted to. Yes, that is the required hours for observation. Any other questions? Another question asks, how do you want us to document our 30 hours? So every time that you, every week, I believe, there is a template, and you would document whatever hours you have, and then you would submit it at the end of, I think it's module 5. That's a good question. Liz, I will get back to you of how you want us to document in a little bit more detail, and I will actually send it out through a class-wide email. Another question asks, if I work with 4th and 5th graders as well, can I count those hours or not? So with early childhood education, it has to be 0 to 8 years of age. So if you have a 4th grader that is 8 years of age, which I'm guessing you probably don't, you cannot count those. And yes, you can document hours from last week as well, from when the course began. So yes. Another question also, I work 12-hour shifts, so I usually clock out 52 hours a week. How would I document these hours? I will respond to you, Liz, individually with that question, with that answer, either later tonight or early tomorrow morning. Any other questions? All right. Seeing that there's no questions, I'm going to continue on. So just want to check in. How is the class going so far? You guys have any week 1 takeaways for module 1? Were you guys able to navigate the course, discussion, general course questions, etc.? Have you guys had a chance to look at the resource tab? I know there was a question with APA format from last, oh gosh, format. Yes, I think there was a question. Jen said, if I have an APA form from my last field experience, can I share if needed? Yes, you can. I would do that. Yeah, I think that's fine. So yeah, I want to hear from you guys. Have you guys had a chance to do your observations? Are there any barriers prevent you to complete this? This is probably the time, if you do have any barriers, to get in contact with me so we can help you work through this. You know, my biggest thing is to make sure that you guys succeed in the course, and that's my goal. So I, really want to help you succeed. So if there are any barriers, you let me know. The tracking of hours are pretty simple. I just have to make sure I get the right information. I can't really log into the course right now to get that information from you, Jen, but once I do, I can. So yeah, opening it up for conversation. Please feel free to unmute your microphones instead of just chatting. Helps me a lot too.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. My classes are going good so far, and a week one takeaway that I noticed was that you have to do the planning to observe and to do a lesson plan.
Yes, you need to observe before you could actually do a lesson plan, and that you're completely right. Anything else? And we'll get into like the lesson planning a little bit more in one of the week one assignments that you will have to be doing for this week. So I will show you what I've done, and you guys could not copy it, but you guys could mirror of what I'm looking for when I do a lesson plan when I show you later on tonight. That'll be in one of my slides. So have you guys had a chance to review the resource tab? I know there's a question with APA formatting. It's a good way to get to know APA formatting. I know a lot of students in the past hear that, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. You guys are a quiet bunch.
I have started my observations. I do them on a regular basis anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I do use certain formats, and I know that you had stated in your notes that we should do our observation notes when the children are not present. But I do them as I go, like the anecdotal notes as I go, and I pre-plan things.
Sure.
When you were like specifying certain areas of the observation, would sharing some of those notes without the child's name be beneficial to you, or just kind of take out specific areas?
So yeah, we'll go over that a little bit more of what I'm looking for. Usually when you are doing whatever child that you are observing, you want to make sure that you can use initials, because nobody's going to know initials.
Right.
And then, yeah, I mean, you're definitely looking for you know, the domain and what, you know, the outcomes, and we'll go over that a little bit more later, Jed, of a little bit more specific, especially with the assignment that you guys are that you guys have to do this week.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, hearing, seeing that there's nothing else, I'm going to keep on going because we do have a lot, and I do want to get through it. So the field experience reports. as you guys know, each module's field experience report kind of prompts you to focus on one key area of practice. So really, last week was locating the state policies and procedures, and then obviously this week is observation and assessment. You want to really make sure to examine it early in each module to ensure that you do know what to focus on for your upcoming field experiences. And then at the end of the module, you'll report, and this is kind of, Jen, where I was going back. At the end, then you'll report on how many field experience hours you completed along with a reflection on your experience. An overview of each module's key area of practice can be found in the chart that I have on for you. And then, like I said, reflection by its very nature is really very personal, and there is no right or wrong answers. It's basically just the habit of reflecting upon your effectiveness as an educator of your observations, and most important, consequently, my feedback may be brief, but it's basically it's what you think. And then in your written responses, please make sure to use complete sentences as well as proper punctuation and grammar. So basically, it's what you think. It's a very personal experience, and basically the key areas of practice, this is the topics that are revolve around it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. So I'm going to move on to the planning cycle. So I wanted to dig in a little bit more, just so you guys really understand what the planning cycle is and what it entails. And, even if you don't know it, hopefully you could learn a little bit about what it is and how to do it when doing your lesson plans. So when we talk about the planning cycle, we want to, the first step in any planning cycle is to identify the subject. And before planning any curriculum, it's really important to identify for whom you're planning for. Some of the things that you really want to consider: reflection questions as you do choose whom you're planning for is, what do I know about the child's development, progress, areas of growth, home life, and interests? And what do I want the child to do or learn as a result of the lesson? It's really important to understand this information so you can set attainable outcomes for the child as you develop your lesson plan. So planning, that's what the very first thing you want to do is identify what you want the child to do or learn as a result of the lesson. Gather up the child's development, progress, areas of growth, home life, and interests. That will make your planning a lot easier. And then the next thing, as you know, is planning. So once you identified the subject that you have planned for, with the background information about the child's development, progress, home life, interests, then you really could begin the planning stage. Planning should include aspects such as materials needed, step-by-step instructions, transition and support strategies, and environmental considerations. Writing out your plan is really a good way to see how it will come together. So basically, making sure that you have your materials, you know what materials you need, any step-by-step instructions, transition and support strategies, and environmental considerations. That's the planning. Once you've identified, that's what you do. You want to plan those things. The next thing that you want to do is, from your plan, is you want to implement what you planned. So implementation of your plan, like I said, will only be effective if the child is actively engaged with your plan. So, you know, during free choice, and I know, Jen, you said something around, I think it was Jen that said something around the lines of possibly observing like ongoing observation, and that's, you know, honestly what you should do. And it's good when there's free choice time during play-based learning is really a good way for early childhood teachers to give those opportunities for the child to investigate and discover new skills and understandings. You want to make sure that their interests and they're actually actively participating, because your lesson plan will not go well if they are not engaged in activity. So yeah, and then you want to make sure that you guys observe, being really cognizant of each activity as it unfolds is really imperative to the rest of the cycle. We do ask ourselves as early educators, what is working, what is not working, what learning is taking place, and how do you know that the learning is actually taking place. During your observation time, you should be taking a lot of notes of your observations. There are different ways for taking observations depending on what you're looking for the behavior, and I will discuss that on the next slide a little bit as the different types of observations. And then you have the adjust and differentiating. Only if you work in early childhood education, you know lesson plans don't always go as planned. We do, one of the biggest things is we want to make sure that we have a backup plan too. So basically, you know, each lesson can always expand growth. As educators, the biggest thing is reflection and how we can continue to meet the individual learning and development needs of each child, and how we can adapt the lesson to ensure you accommodate the diverse learners of your classroom. And then finally, what are the next steps we can bridge the lesson authentically into the child's home and to the community? As we know, that learning process doesn't end at the school, and it is our job to inform the parents and guardians of these children what we are doing, so we can share that information with the parents at home. This will help the child master the outcome when there is dual support, not just in school, but also at home too as well. And this does help build the child's strengths so they can scaffold their learning. The next thing is you want to assess. So to complete the planning, we must reflect on the lesson effectiveness. First, were the learning outcomes met, and how do we know? What does the child know now? And what are the next steps in the child's development and learning goals? And then the last thing, you want to repeat. What you could have changed so the lesson could have been more effective maybe. Maybe you didn't gather enough information, like the child's interest or the family's lifestyle. There's just different things that you could do. It's currently using the planning cycle as an ongoing process. How do you think it will affect teaching practices? So yeah, it's, you might want to repeat the cycle and reflect what has and what has not worked. So yeah, having said all that, how do you think that will affect your teaching practices? If you are viewing this video, please answer the following questions. Please answer The question, do you currently use the planning cycle as an ongoing process, and how do you think that will affect your teaching practices? Usually when I was reading a lot of discussion posts, and I think sometimes teachers get actual activities and what they're doing throughout the day and actual lesson plans a little mixed up. And that is something, we will talk about a little bit later. A daily activity, like going to the gym, is different. Your daily routine is a little bit different than the actual planning cycle itself, and actually planning for what you're doing during that activity, during that time, during small group, during gym time, during whatever it is. So I would like to open it up for conversation. Do you guys usually currently use the planning cycle as an ongoing process? How do you think it will affect your teaching practices? To be honest, I'm going to be truthful. When I started teaching, I had no idea I was using the planning cycle as an ongoing process. I was using parts of it, but actually not using it to fidelity. So yeah, I want to hear from you guys.
My name is Renita, and I work at an early childhood program, and they do use it in the classroom, and it will help me by watching and observing the teacher. So when I decide to do my own child care, I can be able to do the planning cycle. Because if you don't plan, your mind and your lesson plan will be all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And is always making sure to identify whom you're planning for. It might be different if you have your own child care center and you have a child that is an infant, but you also have a child that's a toddler. Well, there's two different developmental, two different developmental domains going on that are not really similar. To making sure that you individualize for each one of them.
I know that in school, they have a lesson team, but they implement it like a month in advance. So it's not like adjusting and assessing the children as much. Whereas like I work in the 4th and 5th grade room because I work through a school. And in the 4th and 5th grade room, we do the planning cycle where we adjust it, and even sometimes we adjust it like as we're going through.
Thank you for sharing.
Hi, where I work, we do use the planning cycle. It helps a lot with the 2-year-olds to understand what we're learning about. And the teacher's the one who does that more. I'm the one who's still learning and eventually going to start doing it myself.
Nice. Thank you. There's a few people right in the chat box too. One, I think Tasha said, helps us be intentional in our teaching, and Liz said that our teachers at my preschool, they plan and do lesson plans every week and follow a matrix. Yes, there's different things in different curriculums for planning and making sure and it's really, planning should be really individualized to meet the needs of all diverse learners in each class, because, Johnny might be able to learn by seeing, while Natalie might learn more by actually doing. The different styles of learning too have to always come into play too as well.
I know that in the past I plan ahead of time, and now I do it child-based interest, especially with the older kids. I feel that their engagement is higher, and then we kind of expand from that. Like I'll get ideas through our circle time on a Monday, and then I'll lesson plan for the week off of that, and then they're fully engaged versus me just trying to come up with something that I feel would be best for them way ahead of time. So that has been helpful, especially for me with multiple ages.
Yes, Jen, and that's actually, you hit it right on the nose with getting the interests of the children, because if you know the interests of the children, they're going to be more, they will participate more because they'll actually be interested in what they're doing. So yes, great.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to add? Yeah, so, and basically, yeah, if you are viewing this online, please make sure to answer do you currently use the planning cycle as an ongoing process, and how do you think that will affect your teaching practices in paragraph format? Thank you, everybody who has participated so far in the conversation of the planning cycle. It is a little bit different, and it gets a little bit used to, you have to get it. It's like, I can't remember who said it, but it is intentional teaching pretty much, and making sure that, that you make sure that you know your child's interests, like Jen said, so you guys can plan and have an effective observation and effective lesson plan that meets the objective. So moving on, as I promised, methods of recording observations. So there are quite a bit of methods of recording observations depending on what you want to do. I did talk about it a little bit in the other slide. So I just wanted to break down each recording method so you guys have an understanding of what they are. I know I can't remember who mentioned anecdotal records, but yeah, we will talk a little bit more about that, learning records and everything else in between. So basically, running records, forms, and anecdotal records are the most common forms of observation that you'll probably use, or that you probably use and didn't really know that's what they're called. Basically, a running record is a detailed narrative account of behaviors or events written sequentially as an incident occurs. Basically, it's a play-by-play of behaviors and events that is happening. Opposed to anecdotal records are like short stories that educators use to record a significant incident that they have observed, can usually be written down after the behavior has taken place. A lot of times it's hard to do a running record unless you are in there not really supervising the child. If you're supervising the child, it would be really, really difficult to do a running record. But yeah, so that's a little bit different. One is a play-by-play of the events that's happening, of the behaviors, and the other one is a written down after the behavior has taken place. There's also the checklists. Checklists are more of a formal assessment that allows educators to notate presence or absence of some criteria with no details of the event. Basically, if you have like a 30-minute checklist count to make sure that children are there, basically that could be a method of observation, recording an observation in that way. There's also developmental checklists that you guys are probably familiar with, that are assessment tools that list series of criteria to indicate the presence or absence of a specific behavior represented of children's development. So Basically, I don't know if a lot of you guys use Teaching Strategies Gold. I know our program does. You know, can the child use a free, and they use a pencil correctly, a trifold grip, or are they using it with their full hand? So basically, stuff to that extent where it's focusing on a developmental domain like fine motor or large motor or you know, it's language or literacy, whatever it is. So basically, there's checklists for that. There's also rating skills. That's usually a checklist that has been modified to include various levels of quality in programs. In Colorado, we have the early childhood programs. They use Colorado Shines as a rating scale. Basically, it's a rating scale that demonstrates quality of learning program for the center or program. The higher the rating, the more money companies can charge to enroll their child into a particular program. That is a rating scale. Some characteristics of that. And then there's time and event sampling. Basically, time sampling focuses on problem behaviors to see how often they occur. Observers have a set time to observe the behavior and can check how often the behavior occurs, while the event sampling is a series of short observations to confirm the child's behavior pattern in order to provide strategies to manage the child's behavior more effectively. Basically, event sampling confirms that behavior is happening at different times throughout the day. And now I just want to open it up to conversation. Which of the observational approaches and documentation methods do you think will be most useful to you and why? You probably have seen a lot of these, maybe have you used them yourself. So yeah, I'm going to open it up for you guys. And Jen says that they have a parent aware program. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I probably would use the notes and both checklists and the time sampling, basically all of them, because all of them is a help.
Sure, yeah, they all help in different areas of behavior and just different, yeah, everything is a little bit different, but they all do help with what you're looking for. Looks like Jen, I think it was Jen, on the chat said they have a parent program, oh, sorry, parent aware as well. She loves the checklist because it helps her keep her organized. Natasha, oh, Ariel. Ariel also has parent aware as well. Jen and Ariel, both Minnesota, has that both as looks like their rating scales. Natasha uses teaching strategies Gold in her classroom, like take pictures with our iPad on TSG Gold app. We use it before we plan, after we teach to see what they have learned, if we need to adjust to meet different needs. Yes, that's a really effective way too, Natasha, teaching strategies Gold, because yeah, you could plug in those pictures instead of writing a huge detailed observation of what it is. I mean, a lot of pictures can tell 1,000 words usually in those observations. Great, great comment. Anything else? All right, I'm going to move along. Because of the sake of time, I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Writing a learning objective and SMART goals, because I want to make sure to end on the example comprehensive lesson plan. So writing a learning objective, you want to make sure that you have SMART goals. Basically, SMART goals are goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, and realistic and timely. When doing SMART goals, you really want to make sure that it's goals that meet the needs of the children, and making sure that they uphold program and learning standards. And, you know, being specific of knowing exactly what you want to accomplish with the goal. Goals must be well defined, and with the comprehensive lesson plan that I'm going to show you, have these SMART goals where it's really specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's timely. Having said that, and looking at this, I'm going to jump into the comprehensive lesson plan because I think it's really important. It's going to be really important for your assignment, so you know and understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. So I had a few years ago, I was developing a comprehensive lesson plan for my daughter. My daughter, Annika, she has special needs, and she works through some of these different things. So this is actually something that was actually real. So, you know, throughout the course, you will be creating comprehensive lesson plans. Each week's assignment should build on your assignment from the previous week. Each week you will be provided for a template to complete. One important thing really to note with this template is the written assignment this week is an observation of a child. You will base your lesson plan on the child you observed and create a lesson plan to help the child improve in one area where they need growth. And then, like I said, this is an example I created of my daughter. And it talks a little bit about one of the goals and explains why it's SMART. So I'm going to jump right into this. So with anytime you're doing a comprehensive lesson plan, always use initials, never use full names. That's one of the things I want to really get into the habit of doing. The next thing you really want to do is you want to name the activity. It could be a small group, it could be mealtime. For me, it's mealtime routine. It was something that I did at my house. The age group was 6 to 36 months. I think she was like 18 months when we did this. And it was individual. It wasn't in an actual school setting. When we talk about SMART goals, we want to make sure that we begin with a verb and it's specific. This is basically what you want the child to do as a result of the lesson plan. So this is what you want the child to do, and this is the activities that will get them there to practice those skills. So, for example, for physical, perpetual, fine motor, gross motor, I uses hand-eye coordination when participating in routines such as carrying food, eating with silverware, drinking out of a cup, pouring liquid into a cup, and eating with fingers. If you take a look at that, I'm really specific at what I'm doing, and this is what I want Annika to learn, these specific things. This is how we are going to get her there. This is what we're going to practice. This is the lesson. Providing the opportunities to have Annika use forks, spoons, eat with fingers, smelling and touching different foods, pour water into a cup, drink water from a cup, carry food, passing the food. This will all help strengthen her motor skills and hand-eye coordination. When we know that she has mastered that, she will be able to do that easily. But then we'll talk about measuring too here in a minute. So another thing is identifies different foods in correlation to shapes, colors, and quantities during mealtime. If you take a look, I was really intentional about shapes, colors, and quantity during mealtime. Basically, with the cognitive, you want to identify different foods by their shape and colors. Example, an apple is a red circle. Basically, if you want, how you're going to measure that, well, you measure it if the child can actually tell you that the apple is red and it is a circle to meet these outcomes, and knowing how many apples there are, quantity, that is all cognitive. The next thing is seeks information and meaning words by asking questions in words or signs such as, what's that, who's that, why, or what happened at mealtime. And then the implementation of visuals on a daily schedule board of the child eating at the table, reading specific books regarding to mealtime, and asking questions to scaffold their learning. That is some ways that you could do, or the activity you could do to help her meet the objective of these things. Next thing, engages in positive interactions such as thank you, excuse me, please, no thank you, in a variety of situations with familiar adults. So using positive manners such as please and thank you will be modeled by the adults, so Annika will know what is appropriate positive ways of communicating. And then the very last thing is demonstrates awareness of own feelings, emotional. After trying foods, Annika will have awareness and feelings about new foods that she tried. She will know what she likes, what she dislikes, maybe what is sour, what is sweet, and explaining those emotions. So that is basically when I'm looking at an activity, that's what I'm looking for. Looking for specific, making sure that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. I mean, when do we want to make sure? You want to make sure that you don't want to rush each child. You don't want to rush the child. You want to make sure that you give them a long enough time for them to actually develop those skills through those lesson plans and those activities. So basically, yeah, that is the example of comprehensive lesson plan that I did. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? I know it was a lot of information. I feel like that I just wanted to make sure that we got to that last comprehensive lesson plan so you guys kind of know what to do and how to do it. Any questions? And I know that Jen had a question, and I will reply to the whole class about documentation of how to do that. All right, hearing and seeing that there are no questions, the way you will get points for this live session is to just type your name in the chat box. And if you guys don't have any questions, have a good night and feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any barriers or any questions. Thank you.